New York Undercover. The story of New York Undercover began with the man behind the idea, hip-hop music and entertainment mogul Andre Harrell.
I was Uptown Records, and the lifestyle I was giving people through my artists, through Jodeci or Heavy or Mary J. Blige, I'll be sure, was New York City. It was culturally right in the pocket. People loved it.
In 1992, Harrell inked an unprecedented deal with Universal Pictures to branch his hip-hop vision into film and television.
My role was to develop and create film and television projects for Uptown, utilizing the artists and the relationships that we already had, and sort of bringing the hip-hop world into Hollywood.
The early 90s had seen a small but significant presence of black television comedies in prime time, but Harrell and Brown wanted to try something different.
And what we wanted to do is have a drama that would be able to infuse the music of the culture inside the television show.
I said, imagine Miami Vice hip-hop in Harlem, from the new generation of being cops, so we're kind of more like a hip-hop attitude.
The idea was a tough sell. The Rodney King riots of 1992 prompted rappers like NWA, Public Enemy, and Ice-T to put police in the crosshairs, and trust between law enforcement and minority communities was on life support.
So our idea was to create a show that had characters that reflected who we are and who the audience was. Cops that represented the generation and represented the streets that they would be walking.
Harrell and Brown drew inspiration from a trio of real-life Chicago cops known as the Slick Boys, who policed the city's Cabrini Green housing projects, and in 1990 began to rap.
Doing the whole Slick Boy thing is we wanted to give back to the community other than just being the police.
These cops are not like cops you ever see on television. They dressed in a way that they could just get arrested. You know, if they didn't know the cops around them, I'm sure they would get pulled over and profiled.
They cooperate with people, people cooperate with them more than anybody else, I feel like. Anytime.
They were in their own community, and everybody knew them. They're not about busting heads. They're not a suppressive force. They are an interactive force.
Making the concept even more daring was that Harrell and Brown wanted to feature all black leads in the show, something never seen before in a primetime cop show. To do that, they knew they would need an ally with clout.
So we went to Universal and said, who's the biggest showrunner you got? And they said, Dick Wolf. We said, good, we want to meet him.
Wolf's resume included Miami Vice and Law and Order.
We said, listen, we know black people know how to make people laugh. But if you put the music underneath it, if you put the feeling underneath it, and if you make characters that are multidimensional, we can create something special.
Wolf signed on in 1993 and took the series to Fox, which was young and willing to push the envelope.
Fox was the fourth network. They said, we're going to go for that underserved audience, young, African-American, urban, hip, edgy, and because they're not being served by the major networks, and we're going to grab them, and that's how we're going to establish ourselves.
They had Living Color, Living Single, they had Martin. Nobody else was paying attention, and here they come.
Fox clicked on the idea of a crime show set in Harlem, but balked at putting hip-hop on primetime.
Gangster rap was out there. I mean, some of the lyrics are just nasty. I'd be in the meetings, they would be turning their faces up, but every time they were hesitant, Dick would hit them with numbers. 70, 80% of hip-hop sales at that time were young white boys. So young white boys love action shows. They love cop shows. So he would convince them that it'll be gritty and urban and real, but broadcastable.
Fox decided to go for it, sort of.
We were trying to put two black actors together. Fox was not happy. They wanted a white actor. You cannot have a black actor and a white actor in Harlem in an undercover situation. It just doesn't work. So we settled on a Puerto Rican.
Casting for the newly titled New York Undercover began in the spring of 1994. First up, the role of smooth-talking, streetwise detective J.C. Williams.
It's not my hood, man. He could have been 5-0. He could have been working for another crew. Listen, I move mine when I want to move it.
Malik was an unknown actor, and when he came, he just looked the part. He was 6'1", dark-skinned, bald head. He could act. He was right.
A community activist from Harlem, Malik Yoba had led protests against police violence and was just getting started as an actor.
I'm young. I'm in New York. I'm a black dude, and I'm playing a cop. And we get to represent the street, but also represent law enforcement. And honestly, for me, I looked at it as an extension of my community work.
Up next, JC's partner and best friend, the Puerto Rican Eddie Torres.
I know you want this to have a happy ending, but it ain't going down like that.
There was nobody on TV that was Latino, that had this rich life outside of just being a cop. So I was like, okay, get me in. But they wouldn't see me.
I was looking at Michael D. Lorenzo like, you was a dancer in fame. How you gonna turn around and be like a swagged out hip-hop cop?
They made me pre-read for the assistant casting director. Then I got the call to go read for the producers. Malik comes through the door and they go, well, why don't you guys read?
We just had an energy that other people, I didn't have with anybody else. I remember thinking like, nah, that was the one that felt like the business, yeah.
Fortunately, we were able to find Michael D. Lorenzo, and Michael worked.
Next up, producers needed to find a boss for Detectives Williams and Torres. Again, they opted to go against the grain.
Our top priority is getting Moreno out. Need I mention, she never should have been left there in the first place.
Very early, we decided that this lieutenant should be a woman. She's got to be balls out. She's got to have no fear. She's got to be as cool as like a JC with authority.
Dick Wolf had a hunch about veteran actress and model, Patty Darbenville.
One of my nephews is still a detective in the New York City Police Department. And my brother was a cop, and I had stories from them, and I just told him a couple, and we sealed the deal on that day, I believe. I was kind of sick of being someone's arm candy or eye candy, and Lieutenant Cooper afforded me that, to be taken seriously as a woman and as an actor.
With the principal set, the search was on for supporting characters to flesh out the complicated personal lives of the leads.
The guys I knew all had a kid somewhere. So JC was gonna have a kid. And none of the guys I knew, I'm sorry, they're not with the woman they had the baby with. They always leave homegirl for the caramel-colored girl. So let's just put that out there and just deal with that.
11-year-old George Gore II was cast as JC's young son, G. Newcomer Fatima Faloye filled the role of G's mother and JC's ex, Chantel.
We really stressed and debated with the executives at Fox about the baby mama. They were scared about it because they're going to catch the backlash.
It would have been Andre, it would have been me, it would have been Alonzo, all at the same time going, but that's real. If we're going to do a show and these characters are even going to be half real, that stays.
To their credit, they were brave enough to do it because this is what's going on out here in this society.
Rounding out the love triangle was JC's girlfriend, Sandy, played by New Jack City alum Michael Michelle.
She was a lawyer and the love interest to J.C. Williams, but supposed to be very different from him. She was a corporate woman, and Malik was the cop on the streets of New York.
Michael Michelle was a beauty from New York who just hit the screen and lit it up. She felt, like a lawyer. She felt beautiful but kind of stiff, which is what we needed for the role.
I remember putting that initial cast together and sitting there and feeling like we were really doing something that was groundbreaking. We didn't go the cookie-cutter route.
We started to feel that this show was really going into something that no one else had on television. This was new territory, and we need to get it right.
New York Undercover debuted at 9 p.m. on Thursday, September 8, 1994. Set in Harlem, the series featured an unprecedented pair of minority leads and a signature open with a hip-hop pulse.
The one thing that people remembered most when the show would come on Thursday night was that opening montage.
Instead of having score, for the most part, what we try to do is put a real record on.
There was no other show that was really shining a light on real hip-hop. We were putting it on that show.
We made the music part of the drama of the show. So if you empathized with what was going on with the characters, the music became a part of it.
We were, at that time, just beginning to sort of experience the whole East Coast, West Coast rap war. And so we chose to write an episode about that dynamic.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. For those of you who are just joining us, our topic today is violence in rap music.
We just said, okay, let's do an episode where we get them all on there. Just, you know, check the weapons before they come on the set.
Are you guys going to continue to rap about the things you've been rapping about?
If our neighborhood is filled with drugs, crime, and violence, what else we gonna rap about? Green grass and daffodils?
Tretch was in it, Yo-Yo was in it, Sticky Fingers, Biggie was in it. We had everybody that was just hot.
You don't glorify violence. Yo, put it like this. The government passed the anti-crime bill to put more money into brothers playing midnight basketball. I'm saying that's cool and all, but meanwhile, it's hard as hell to get a grant for college. And now they talking about cutting off poor people from welfare? You damn right people is violent, but it ain't because of hip-hop.
Violence was at the forefront of the conversations with hip-hop, so we had to deal with it.
Once the response and the reaction and the positive vibe and the feedback from the show got out, then people started going, hey, we want to be on your show, we want to be on your show, we want to be on your show.
And hip-hop, they were actors. A lot of these guys was turning actor. I was trying to recruit as many of those kinds of players that made sense as possible.
The phone rang, and it was Andre Harrell. And he's like, come on, man, you should do the show. I said, all right, well, this is the deal. Give me a bad guy role, and I'll play it.
We run a very exclusive organization here. Yeah, benefits, cash, lots of cash.
Ice-T was on fire at the time, that's for sure, especially on the West Coast. You know, he was so strong.
Dip into any of my goods while you're cooking, and you'll learn the real meaning of contract terminated.
Danny Court was just your evil genius guy. Maybe overly educated, but in a criminal way.
I mean, he was diabolical, and he didn't care. Like, he basically smacked up this little kid because the kid was getting into the cat. He was like, oh, you costing me money.
Everybody says, man, you smacked this kid. How do you smack the kid? I'm like, they're not hard. You just got to get low on them and kind of, if you catch them right.
Ooh, if it ain't super fly.
I should even try.
What, you came here to arrest me? I don't hear anybody's rights being read.
For many of our villains, we try to humanize them. With Ice-T, we didn't do any of that. He was just crazy.
He was not an actor. He was a gangster. And some people are actors who play gangsters. Ice-T was really a gangster.
I could blame it on society, but that's such a cop-out. Plus, it doesn't explain why I'm about to murder your punk ass right here in cold blood.
I'm the nitty nasty gritty smasher, never slow gas. Strictly swift, laugh of the raspy ras. I provide the UC, besides the ghetto
New York Undercover, the inner city crime series that grooved to a hip-hop beat, found its fan base fast.
We were the only show in history that ever made black cops cool. Cops of color, who spoke the language of the people on the streets.
The love from
everywhere was extraordinary. It was like this pride. We love what you do. We appreciate what you represent.
Brother, you put me on TV. I see myself. I see my family. I see my world. Thank you.
I did them for you.
Did who for who?
Red, the grand homeboy. I canceled him for you. Also the way he dissed you in front of everybody.
Much of what made New York Undercover so relatable was an honesty and realism about urban life that was rarely seen on network TV.
He can't do it that way, right? So I took care of it.
You smoked him?
Yeah, so I can hang with you now, right?
The Man's one of those timeless storylines about these fatherless kids growing up, having to raise themselves.
It's about a child trying to be a man, but then you look at the picture of the man he's trying to be and it's screwed up.
It was jarringly truthful at times.
I go, the kid's got to die. Otherwise, why are we doing this episode? You know, because other TV shows, there would be some noble moment. That saved the kid, but I don't see that. I don't read about that in Detroit and Houston and DC.
When we use violence to say something, it was violent, but it was violent for a reason.
Where the hell did you get this? Chuck, I got this. What the hell were you gonna do with this? Where'd you get this?
Beyond the violence, New York Undercover got real about family dramas, not normally depicted on prime time.
You wanna go get your revenge? Here, take it. Go get your revenge.
Don't want the gun.
Take it.
Don't want it.
Take the gun.
That's something my father would have done. My father absolutely would have been that. Oh, you want to be that guy? Here. No, here. What you crying for?
Don't want it.
If New York Undercover could explore inner-city issues with sensitivity and guts, it also reveled in a villain like Danny Up, who returned for the season 1 finale.
He became a recurring character because it was just such a strong reaction from his performance. The more over the top you wrote him, he just made it believable and you just bought it.
When you take down a criminal's empire, he might have a grudge. So now Danny Up's on a whole nother level of gangster.
JC, get that, please.
Yeah, all right.
Delivery for J.C. Williams.
I just said you got to do this with the least amount of emotion possible. It's almost humorous to you.
I'll take that.
Are you sure?
His fiance.
Even better.
She was pregnant, and they were supposed to get married, and they see how devastated J.C. Williams was. Like, that just struck a chord with people.
I just remember shooting the scene when the character's under a blanket and there's blood, but those tears were real.
I still get people to stop me on the street or will yell my name and, why'd Ice-T have to shoot you like that? It was just one of those moments, and I think that it helped define where the show was going.
Where it was going, it turned out, was still up for grabs. Fox had counter-programmed New York Undercover against Seinfeld, the #1 show in America. And while the series did great with minorities, Fox wasn't sure that was enough.
It had extremely high ratings with the black audience. Ages 30 and under, we had 90%. And reasonable ratings with the mainstream.
And the Image Award goes to Malik Yoba, New York Undercover.
The first season, I won an Image Award for the role. And part of my speech was, now that we've won this award, maybe the show will get picked up for a second season.
We aren't picked up yet, Fox. You know what time it is. Hopefully this will give you a little incentive.
They never had a drama that was ever renewed in the history of television with 2 minorities as leads. So this was uncharted territory for them.
New York Undercover's impact and influence after season 1 went beyond its ratings.
We influenced how people shopped, the music they listened to, the clothes that they wore.
The bubble jackets and the Timbos and the jeans and the right slouch and the right break in the jeans.
Wow, you finally got it right. You finally got the subtleties right.
With critical acclaim and a passionate fan base, Fox finally greenlit New York Undercover for season 2 with a twist.
I need to ask you a few questions.
Peep this, fellas. A 5-0 chicken. Baby, if it's you flat on your back, I will give you all day. I'll make you scream like this.
And I'll tell you what, when you go straight to Rikers, we'll see who the screamer is.
I think they wanted to balance out some of that testosterone with some estrogen and brought in our lovely Lauren Velez.
Adding Nina Moreno to the cast added a female point of view from a cop's perspective who was Puerto Rican and Black.
Women who loved Michael and Malik and then saw this woman and thought, cool, the world just got even more familiar.
I need to know where my partner is at all times. But why didn't you answer the radio?
Because I was too busy knocking off that guy who had his piece up, you know. Look, it worked out, didn't it?
Yeah, this time.
They're just like butting heads right off, which to me was just like, well, there we go. We're destined for an incredible relationship.
I'll see you later.
Damn, Mama, you look good.
Oh my God. Hi. Girl. Hi.
You look amazing. Look at you.
You look amazing.
Shut up.
Shut up.
Shut up. No, sit down. You look good. The lighting's right.
Can't you come and sit here for a little while?
Oh, we hated each other. It was instantaneous. We were like, nah. Me be attracted to you, and she's like, don't worry about it. I'm not attracted to you either. The first episode that you really did, that's kind of how we flirted from a distance with each other.
Does it get this exciting with JC?
Not exactly.
And he was protective of Nina right away. And I mean, remember when I walked away from the motorcycle and you were checking me out? Remember that? I remember that.
Oh.
That's cool.
What is your problem? Why are you tripping? Because I'm tired of having to prove myself to you morons.
Eddie and Nina weren't perfect, but they were perfect for each other.
Did you ever ask the lieutenant to take JC off a case because you were concerned for his safety? That sounds pretty stupid, I put it like that, doesn't it?
The key essence is that they've never seen this, because they've never seen two people of, especially Latinos, you know.
Especially Afro-Latinas. And I remember thinking, is that even possible that that exists, that we are the only Latino couple in primetime?
Beyond exploring relationships that broke new ground, New York Undercover continued to develop storylines that no other crime series would touch.
In the news at the time, Malcolm X's daughter had been arrested for plotting to murder Farrakhan.
Malik got away with murder. He wants to forget it, and I loathe him for it.
What was interesting was she was trying to use a Jewish or Israeli component with which to assassinate him.
If you're looking for someone with a motive, try the Defenders. Who are they? They're a terrorist Jewish group.
If you know anything about Israel and Islam, you will understand that it was incendiary, and that was the basis of the episode called The Reckoning.
I was with these guys all day.
Yusuf was shot from 300 yards. You have the means and the motive.
The guy hated Jews.
As I was writing the episode, I got a call from the showrunner, Steve Smith, who said to me, Fox doesn't want to do this episode. Dick Wolf called me after he read it and said, we're doing this in the back nine. I don't care what they say.
Kill a few more Muslims, right, Larry?
Don't cry for them, detective. They don't give a damn about you.
There came a point where it really felt like
We could just go and tackle any sort of subject matter.
He was left alone. It's almost like they didn't care. It's about the black people. I got them do it.
But that was about to change. The very success of New York Undercover had raised the stakes for Fox, which was now chasing bigger dreams.
We were pulling in 12s and 13s and 14s, but I remember the pressure of, we got to get our ratings up.
Felt like there started to be this turn to make the show more mainstream.
I remember being told the show needs a white presence in order to survive. And I remember thinking, you're crazy.
After 2 years, it was clear that Fox's big gamble on a crime series with minority leaders and a hip-hop heart was paying off. But in 1996, as season 3 was about to start, there was a feeling inside New York Undercover that the show was getting dissed.
Although it was #1 in Black and Latino households, you still never saw a billboard for it. You didn't see a T-shirt.
We used to have this sort of joke on set that we were like the little ghetto show that could, because we didn't have a lot of money. Down the road was Dick's other show, and it was his baby, and that was Law and Order, and they had all of the amenities.
We shot in Harlem in the 90s, and so there were issues around safety. Some crackhead attacked me and was gonna stab me, because things used to get hairy.
Malik is an activist. You know, Michael is an actor who, you know, it takes his craft very seriously. They weren't afraid to speak up about it.
Yoba and De Lorenzo thought they had the leverage to do more than talk.
And so, #1 and #2 on the call sheet of New York Undercover decided not to show up for work and to hold up production. It might have cost $75,000, $85,000 a day.
Dick began the recast. We started like preparing the scripts as if they weren't coming back. It might have been a bluff. I don't know.
After 3 days away from the set, New York Undercover's 2 breakout stars blinked and returned to work.
It was never about money. It was about, like, I don't feel safe filming this show. And me coming from a community activist background, I was, you know, I forgot the context that I was in.
But Malik and Michael weren't the only ones making demands. As shooting began on season 3, word spread quickly about a shocking directive from Fox.
We came back and were told the show needs a white presence in order to survive.
Fox established themselves with black audiences, and then as they grew, they said, we want to expand. Can you make it a little whiter? Can you make it not so urban, you know, not quite so ethnic?
So that's when they brought in Jonathan LaPaglia, and that totally changed the dynamic. And I think in that 3rd season, it became a different animal.
Jonathan LaPaglia, an actor with no prior screen credits, came in to play a second-generation Irish-American cop named Tommy McNamara.
I think the other cast members were welcoming to the character, but I think in their own way, they felt that it was a diss.
Really, like, we gotta have, like, the white boy come in and save the day.
We got your prints off of the gun and the stiff. So that's armed robbery and homicide. That's a double header, my friend. This must be a lucky day, Dick.
Actually, Tommy was a really smart way to bring in a different demographic.
Hey,
We had a lot of Irish cops there, and I felt like this is normal. Like, this looks like the real deal.
He was edgy. He was cool. He was a cool white boy. And it allowed us to maybe do some different storytelling.
Don't be going anywhere, tough guy. Clean yourself up.
Bringing LaPaglia into the show brought up a whole new set of racial dynamics. But early in season 3, real-world events snapped New York Undercover back to its original mission.
Tupac was gunned down in Vegas, And it was Dick Wolf and Steve Smith calling to tell me to write Kill the Noise, and I had 3 days.
Rapper Monster's got this public beef with this other guy, Lowball, you know, this whole ghetto thing. Sorry? You know, who's got the biggest, whatever, the best lyrics, this whole territorial thing.
What everybody was freaking out about was that I used portions of the real story. Members of the crew were upset because they were fans and they didn't want the subject matter to come out. And I said, I'm not being exploitative, but I'm going to use whatever at my disposal to create conflicts between the characters. We didn't even read through the script. That's how upset everybody was.
Who are you?
I'm C.K. Berry. I'm the president of Low Life Records.
CK, huh? What does that stand for?
Top killer.
For hardcore fans, the homage to Pac was a sacred offering, but honoring the music came at a price.
When Pac was killed in '96, hip-hop was under attack in the media, and there was a mandate that was delivered to us from Dick to pull back on hip-hop and to not even use it for a while.
Fox said, kill the hip-hop, kill the rap. This is too much blackness. 4 of the writers resigned behind that statement in season 3.
I think the broadening of the music was more challenging for our audience than the broadening of the cast. It felt diluted when we stopped doing it.
But there were still bigger shocks in store for the little ghetto show that could.
Dick said, the McNamara character never gelled, get rid of him. And then he said, cliffhanger, Eddie Torres.
Let's do it!
I was friendly with Michael DiLorenzo. He called me on the phone and said, my driver said that I'm blowing up in a car. Is that true?
Season 3 of New York Undercover ended with a shock. Executive producer Dick Wolf decided to kill Michael DeLorenzo off of the show.
What he likes to do is have somebody write a scene where whoever he's angry with is dead, and the remaining characters are standing over their grave sites, having a conversation.
There was an overall feeling that it was probably as a result of them initially, refusing to come back to work.
Why would you do that? Why would you kill this? There's no other couple like this on TV. I mean, it was very emotional for me.
Your emotions are going 1,000 miles an hour, but it was way out of my control by that time.
The car's blowing up, and I just remember in that moment, like, damn, this little fun ride we had for 75 episodes together was over.
Writing Eddie out of the show was more than payback for being out of line. In 1998, Fox was a major network and home to the Super Bowl. Minority programming was no longer a priority.
The intention was to sort of broaden the demographic, but, they just changed the format of the show completely.
Fox told Dick Wolf, outright, we want to market this show overseas. We want to syndicate this show. So to do that, we need to get rid of some of that ethnicity and attract, a global white audience.
They thought that if they added some white characters, that the show would continue on, and it didn't work that way.
Indeed, with Malik Yoba and Lauren Velez surrounded by a new cast, ratings plunged, and Fox pulled the plug on New York Undercover without bothering to air the season 4 finale.
It was unrecognizable to most of its fans and people who felt like they saw themselves represented They just didn't feel that way anymore.
I think the show could have lasted long if they stuck with the original formula. Once they walked away from that, it took the secret sauce away.
What a nice surprise. Yo, that was a genuine surprise. They got me.
Harlem, 2015. This is the first time Malik, Michael, and Lauren have reunited since New York Undercover was killed in season 4.
You have a show like New York Undercover, which is predominantly Black and Latino. And sometimes they don't understand that there's a huge audience out there. They're understanding that now. You see the success of Empire, and then they're going, oh.
The entire time doing Empire, I felt like it had the same DNA. Both shows are great in that they are part of the history of television, which I'm very, very proud to be part of both of them.
I've been telling Dick Wolf and them to do New York Undercover again, especially when you got all this hatred toward the police 25 years later. It's still the same situation. It's even worse.
Now, our hope, in some crazy way, was that maybe people would look at this and go, okay, from a law enforcement point, these are the types of people you need to put on your police force, that know how to communicate with people, that understand their place because they're living it also.
A lot of these cops that come up to me, and I'm in LA and in New York, and they go, you know, I became a cop because of you.
New York Undercover did ultimately make it to syndication on TV One and other outlets. And over 20 years after it all began, the show still hits home.
Take care, man. It was the synergy, it was the cohesion, it translated. I mean, I could tell that you genuinely enjoyed working together. And we were fans. I mean, it was like that dose of feel-good every time we saw you. That's right, I said it.
It changed the way white people watched black people on television and the way black people watched themselves.
We're the A story, we're the B story, we're the C story, we're the story. And I think it's kind of like the most groundbreaking thing about the show, that we were the show.
It humanized the African-American community. It humanized the music of hip-hop, showing us a side of our society that up until that time we did not fully see.
New York Undercover continues to resonate with people because it was real. It was authentic, and authentic will win every single time. Seriously, you got killed off.
I got killed off Dexter.
I got killed off Empire.
Yeah.